Hello everybody, Wannabe Reviewer here, and welcome back to the Wannabe Podcast, episode 64. Quick aside, but speaking of the whole 64 thing, I was thinking of it, as I was setting up the podcast, but isn't it so weird how back during the era of the Nintendo 64, so many, of the games for the Nintendo 64 had 64 as part of the title. I mean, there was Super Mario 64, Donkey Kong 64, Star Fox 64, honestly, those are the first three I can think of off the top of my head, but I do know there's more. And yeah, I just think it's so weird, isn't it? Like, can you imagine if games nowadays were called, like Super Mario Switch, or, The Legend of Zelda, Switch Edition, or for other systems, like if a game was called like God of War PS4, or, Shadow of the Tomb Raider Xbox One X, or whatever. Like, that'd be weird, right? So, I don't know, as I was saying with the podcast, I was just thinking about that. I guess I'm glad that we moved away from that gaming naming trend, because yeah, if games still had the title, of the system they're on in the title, that would just be so weird. Like, I don't know how they got away with it, back on the Nintendo 64. I've always found it weird. And yeah, I just wanted to share that weird little rant before we begin the podcast, I guess. But that little rant aside, I had a week, most of my week, honestly, was dedicated to one video game that I will be talking about later, so stay tuned for that. But besides that, I did have a week where I also watched some things. So, I guess as always, we'll dive right in, and I'm going to start with anime. However, this week I must change things up a little bit. First, I'm going to start with the new anime that I got into. Then I'll go over two of them that I mentioned last week, give a little bit of like a final thought thing before I move on. And finally, an anime that I talked about quite a while ago finally ended, so I'll give my opinions on that one now that it's over. So starting with the anime that I picked up this week, don't even really know why I picked it up. Honestly, I feel like that happens a lot. I just randomly look at anime on like the list of this season, but I ended up stumbling across an anime called Science Fell in Love, so I tried to prove it. And I believe at the time of this recording, there's 4 episodes out. And this is a very strange anime, but it's really like interesting. It does give me a laugh. Basically, it's about these, like there's this office, I guess. Or, maybe it's on a college campus. I don't really know what you would call it. But it's like this little office full of researchers. And, in this office, there's this researcher that she says one day to one of her colleagues that she thinks that she's in love with him. And he's like super surprised, super flustered, but then he's like, how do you know? Or whatever. And because they're such huge geeks, instead of actually talking about their emotions and whether they want to be together, whether they want to form a relationship, they're so hell-bent on seeing if this is actually like love or whatever, that the way they try to prove it is through a bunch of scientific experiments, that's where like the show gets funny. Like basically they're like, okay, you say like you're in love with me, but like how do we know it's true? Like describe what made you come to this conclusion. And she like breaks down like a chart where she's saying, whenever I'm around you, I like spending time with you, and I find you to be attractive, and like my heartbeat, like my heartbeat quickens when I'm with you, stuff like that. And so then the guy is like, okay, let's do some experiments where we're gonna test your heart rate, and we're gonna see like if in different situations when I'm close to you, like your heart rate actually quickens or whatever. And we'll take down the data and we'll analyze it, all this stupid stuff. And like that's where like the comedy of the show comes in. That these two characters are so nerdy that even though they like each other, and it's super obvious to everybody that they have a mutual attraction, they're trying to use science to figure out like if there's something there. Like they want to use hardcore data, like to figure out if the attraction's real or whatever. And so like the comedy just comes from that, because it's just so funny seeing these two science nerds coming up with all sorts of like hypotheses and experiments and coming up with formulas and stuff to see if they like each other. So it's a really weird anime. I mean, it's a I don't know, it's like a premise I never would have thought of. It has like this theme I never would have like imagined, like mixing science with, like people wanting to date each other. But it's really funny, like, I don't know, I just find it really funny seeing these two nerds running around, using all this like data and math and stuff to try to figure out if they like each other. And I don't know, I just find it really funny so far. I find it interesting because a lot of the stuff they talk about is like legit, like data. analysis, you know? Like, when they're talking about like hypothesis and null hypothesis, and they're talking about like all these different like formulas and different like methods of data collection. Like, it is real. So you do feel like you're learning something in a way too. So very strange anime, but I'm enjoying it so far. It's called Science Fell in Love. So I tried to prove it, and I gotta admit, I don't know on what streaming services it is, but I don't know. I mean, if you are interested in it, then, you know, I would say check it out because it's really funny. It's really unique. And like I said, it's really charming just seeing these two characters who obviously like each other, trying to use all these scientific methods and stuff to see like what love is or whatever. Like, I just found it to be like really like humorous and interesting. So if it sounds interesting to you, check it out. And there you go. Alrighty guys, moving on. As I said, I was going to cover a new anime. Then I'm going to talk about two of the anime that I talked about last week. As for the ones I talked about before that, I think at this point I've described them enough. I'm going to try not really describe them or, you know, talk about them again until they end, you know, give like an overall opinion. So, you know, there's that. But, you know, giving a bit of more of an opinion, since I did watch the second episode of these next two, when it comes to Spectre, for anyone who remembers, that's the anime that I said that had to do with like this girl when she was like, I think she said 11. Basically, she spent 2 weeks on like the spirit world, and in the spirit world, you know, they asked her to be like this, I don't know, like this go-between between the world of the living and the world of the dead. In exchange, though, she loses a leg and an eye. And, you know, nowadays, she runs around as this, like, spiritual medium that whenever there's problems with spirits, like, she intervenes and she kind of tries to help the issues going on. And at the end of the first episode, there's this guy that she's really interested in. You know, she remembers, you know, back when he was, like, dating some girl, blah, 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 but she's been interested in him. Now he's single, she's trying to make her move. And, yeah, at the end of the first episode, the guy basically loses his arm, then regrows it, and he says that's because he ate like 2 different types of like monster flesh. And at the beginning of the second episode, he admits that one of the pieces of monster flesh that he ate was apparently like mermaid flesh. And the girl, when she thinks about it, she's like, okay, that makes sense because, you know, mermaid flesh, you know, mermaids, you know, it's said that they have like long lives and they heal a lot, you know, blah, blah, blah. So like that makes sense that you would have like the regenerative abilities, I guess. The thing she says though is that if you said this happened back when you were like a certain age, you know, blah, 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 then you probably would have stopped aging. But it looks like you're aging normally. So she's like, what's that about? And basically he goes, oh, that's probably like the counter effect or whatever of the other piece of flesh that I ate. And, you know, she tries to ask him to clarify, but he's really secretive about it. And that's kind of where that, you know, part of the discussion ends. So like, that's really interesting because I really want to know what's this guy's deal? Why does he seem to have like these powers or whatever? And basically from there, second episode, after they have their talk or whatever, the girl, you know, she says that she has like a mission. She's going to go down to like some lake and she's going to talk to this like huge spirit, see what happened. And she invites him along, but the guy kind of stands her up, which is like really funny because the girl's all pissed saying, oh, I can't believe that, you know, he didn't like want to come with me. And he's like having like a defenseless girl go by herself or whatever, you know, she's trying to act like the victim. It's like, that was really funny. And yeah, the second episode's basically she's talking to this like spirit of the lake. And it has to do with her investigating why this lady seemingly killed some guy and then dumped his body in the lake. And it's really interesting because they like use like a lot of like detective skills where it's like, okay, you know, she dumped the body in the lake, but supposedly, you know, she said, you could hear that she said that she wanted the body to be found, but like, why would she want the body to be found if like she was hiding it? And if she was really hiding it, then like, why didn't she tie stones to the body so it sink to like the bottom? And it's really interesting going through the episode because there's all this just detective work of like the girl trying to break down what actually happened and like the reasoning for like behind the murder and all that good stuff. And basically at the end, you know, the guy does show up, you know, and, you know, I guess he did feel bad about like not going with the girl. So, you know, our other main character, he does show up and he's interacting with the girl and the spirit. And yeah, basically at the end, the girl's going to say, you know, why she thinks like the murder occurred, you know. And so it was kind of a bit of a slower episode compared to the first one, but I still enjoy like the mystery aspect. I enjoy the fact that, yeah, like they're using a lot of like detective skills to try to like figure out all these spirit crimes, I guess you can say. Like that was interesting. I think the characters are pretty cool so far. I like that the girl, you know, she definitely knows what she wants. She wants to like that guy to be her boyfriend, and like the way she like is like really like eager and like, I don't know. I mean, like I think it's kind of funny, you know. And the guy, you know, I like that he, I don't know. I mean, he seems interesting so far. It looks like he's hiding something, and seeing how he kind of partners up with this girl, because we do know he's gonna partner with her. Like, I'm really interested in what his story is, you know? So far, you know, I like the like atmosphere of the show. I like the, you know, solving spirit crimes aspect of it. And I like our characters, because so far they feel interesting. They feel like they have room to grow. And I'm interested to figure out more about them, you know? Like, for instance, what's up with the guy? Why does he have these mysterious powers? Why doesn't he want to talk about them? You know, that sort of thing. So in Spectre, so far, I'm only 2 episodes in, but I am enjoying it so far, and I really have high hopes for it. So once again, if that sounds interesting to you, I would suggest checking it out. I think it's a pretty interesting show so far. There you go. Moving on, the other show that I mentioned last week that I want to talk about this week is Smile on the Runway. Now, if you'll remember, last week I said Smile on the Runway basically came out of like nowhere. And yeah, it's the show that just because based on the first episode alone, it actually made me interested in like the world of modeling and the world of clothes design. Because the way the story follows these two characters, one, you know, it's like this girl that she's too short. She's told that she'll never make it in the modeling world because, you know, you have to be like a certain height or whatever. And she's like this underdog. Like, that was interesting. On the other side of the story, you have this guy that he's from like this poor family. You know, he says that he won't even be able to attend college because he's going to have to work to help, you know, keep his sisters going so that they can go to college, that sort of thing. And he likes to make clothes though. And, you know, he really wants to make clothes. Without college, it seems impossible, but he's like pursuing his dream. And man, you know, right at the end of the first episode, it seemed like that both characters kind of got a break. You know, it seemed like, okay, you know, they took the first step, they were brave, and it looks like they're on the right path. Crazy enough, the second episode, if you've ever heard of being like baptized by fire, which is like it's like a saying that I guess means that you're like, you learn like basically on your first day by like going through hell. You know, like you learn like on the fly, going through like crazy obstacles and stuff. Basically, the second episode is all about the characters like basically being baptized by fire, especially the guy who makes the clothes. Like basically, you know, as soon as he supposedly gets hired by the girl's dad then finds out that he's a college student. I mean, he's a high school student, doesn't want to hire him, but he like really begs for the job, really begs for the opportunity. So, you know, he gets sent to this like apartment. And when he gets there, there's like this guy who's like a fashion designer, and the guy, you know, gets him to work immediately. He starts making him like stitch like this dress together, blah, blah, blah. And as soon as the kid finishes it, the guy says, by the way, I said that I wanted, you know, certain stitching that doesn't show up either from the front or the back. You suck at what you're doing. You're an amateur. He rips the dress up and basically says you're fired. And sure enough, you know, the kid says he refuses to give up. He'll redo it. And he proceeds to spend like the next like 50 hours, I think, without sleep, just doing assignments for this guy. So like, that's crazy. And then, you know, the day of like the first big like modeling event or whatever, basically the girl, you know, the other main character, she's brought in as like an alternate because one of the models got sick or whatever. And, you know, the fashion designer's freaking out because he's like, I can't believe I have these two amateurs to work with. One's like this fashion designer that he's like a total kid. He doesn't know what he's doing. And the guy's freaking out. And he says, and now we have this like midget model that's never going to fit into the dresses I made. And he's like freaking out. And like our main character's saying like, don't worry, you know, I can do this. And like the guy who makes the clothes, he's gonna fix it, you know, blah, blah, blah. And like, it's just like, it seems so extreme, almost a little too over the top. But at the same time, all these obstacles they face in just that one episode, it is really interesting. And it does make it feel really real that like, holy shit, you know, if they want to succeed in this world, they have to like, you know, deal with so much abuse and so much like obstacles in their way and so much things that just come up, you know. Like for the girl, she's brought in as an alternate. She's trying her best to help. And everyone's like abusing her, telling her that, you know, she's like the wrong size and she shouldn't be there and she's going to embarrass the show, blah, blah, blah. But like, she's doing her best. And then as for the kid, you know, the fashion designer kid, like I said, I mean, he gets like so much stuff he goes through where basically he has to like fix a dress on the fly, make it work like for this girl's body type. And, you know, he's freaking out because his you know, the main character, the girl, I really need to learn these two people's name. Like she basically like strips naked in front of him and he's like freaking out. And she's like, you know, this is the way it works in this world, right? Like we don't have time to like be like like modest or whatever. Like we need to be in the nude so we can change out really quick or whatever. So like he's freaking out and just like, I don't know, man. If you watch the second episode, it's so hectic, but it made it so interesting because you're seeing these two characters dealing with so much, but you like really want them to succeed, And I don't know, man, I'm probably hyping this up more than I should, or maybe even more than the show itself does, but I just really enjoyed it. I just thought it was really interesting seeing these two characters really, trying their best in just like the crappiest of situations. And yeah, I'm excited for next week, episode 3, because it's an interesting anime so far. So if I've drawn you in, it's called Smile Down the Runway. Right now, I think like the third episode might be up by the time that I release this podcast. And that one I believe is on Crunchyroll. So hopefully this one's a little easier to find, So if you want to watch it, there you go. Alrighty, finally, almost as of a contrast to the last anime I was talking about, while Smile Down the Runway did an excellent job of introducing, a hobby that I had no interest in, like this world that I know nothing about, and made it interesting, and I'm like intrigued and I'm hooked, to like watch more of it. This anime that finally came to an end after like forever, I think it's like the opposite, where it just did not sell me on the activity from the show. If anyone remembers, quite a while back, I mentioned a show called Rifle is Beautiful. And Rifle is Beautiful, basically it's about these 4 girls. They want to, form a club for laser rifle like shooting. And right away, when I found out that it wasn't real guns, that was disappointing, but it made sense, like why would high schoolers be using guns, and especially in Japan, blah, blah, blah. Still though, I try to keep up hope because, as I said, even if it's something I'm not really interested in, usually anime do a really good job of like selling you on the sport. The thing is though, that even though it focuses on a sport, this is more of like a slice of life anime. So they don't really even focus on the sport. And when they do, it's not really much in detail. It's kind of like the characters hanging out and like the sport is kind of secondary, I guess. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that, man, Rifle is Beautiful took forever to come to an end. I don't know why there was like a month hiatus between, episode 11 and the last episode, episode 12. But the show finally came to an end, and like it honestly wasn't that good. I would say it's probably one of like the most mediocre shows I've watched in a while. Like just nothing happened, Like the sport, they don't sell it at all. They don't make it seem interesting at all, which makes sense because literally it's standing there. You shoot at a target, and then you just, like reload supposedly, and you're ready to go again. So there's not much there, So, I guess they couldn't have really made it interesting, even if they tried, unfortunately. Second of all, the characters just are very generic, and there's nothing interesting about them, Like, honestly, there's supposed to be one that's kind of more of like the cocky one, that's like, more of like a hothead. There's supposed to be one that's super like calm and quiet, and there's supposed to be one that's like childish or whatever, I can't even remember who's who. The only character I kind of remember, and it's just because her design is so over the top, the only character I remember is the blonde girl with the huge red bow that looks like bunny ears. And sure enough, sometimes when she's excited, the ribbon will kind of like, flap or whatever. Like that's the only character I remember because the characters were generic and they just weren't interesting. Like there was nothing about them that stood out. So yeah, that's bad. And third of all, yeah, just the fact that it was like so long to finish the show, that just really killed the hype too. Like between episodes, it was like, I don't know, it was like really big gaps for no reason. Like, I think they went up to like episode like 8. Then they had a recap episode. Then they had like a hiatus, I think. Then they had 9, 10, and 11. Then they took a month off. Then they had episode 12. It's like that really killed like the flow of the show too, So yeah, it's just not a very good show, They didn't sell the sport at all, at least in my opinion. The characters were very generic and like none of them stood out. And at the end of the day, all these long gaps and like weird production value issues just really killed the momentum of the show. So even though I usually like, like I said, sports animes, or even though I usually really like, slice of life anime where it's just, like maybe some girls hanging out in a club and you just see the shenanigans they get into and misadventures and stuff of them just hanging out, I did not enjoy this anime at all. I just thought it was really boring. So Rifle is Beautiful. I wouldn't recommend it. I think it's really boring. Honestly, I would give it like a 5 out of 10, 4 out of 10, something like that. Because I just think it's so dull and uninteresting. So yeah, I mean, I know you usually don't go towards the negatives, but this one, I don't know. I just didn't find it interesting at all. I didn't really like anything about it. So there you go. Alrighty, shifting gears over to the world of video games. I kind of, hinted at this earlier. But yeah, for anyone who's been paying attention to the podcast, I've been talking about the Kingdom Hearts 3, DLC for a while. And sure enough, the Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC called Episode Remind, it finally, launched. I believe it was the 23rd, was it, that it came out officially? The Thursday, I think? Yeah, it came out officially on the 23rd, a Thursday. And to get ready for it, I actually played a lot of Kingdom Hearts 3, throughout the last week. Basically, I was trying to level up Sora, and I was trying to get done with all the treasures and lucky emblems and all these sorts of collectibles. And so, yeah, I just want to talk about that. I know Kingdom Hearts 3 has been kind of a divisive game. Some people liked it. Some people did not like it at all. The gameplay changes they didn't like. Story changes they didn't like. A lot of people wanted this to be like the conclusion to the series, which, I mean, that's kind of stupid. It was never going to be the conclusion, but, that aside, they were disappointed when it wasn't. When it comes to me, I enjoyed Kingdom Hearts 3. Even though it is a very flawed game, I still enjoyed my experience with it. I still had fun playing with it. I still had fun going through like the lore and everything, as like confusing as it can be. And even though the series is like cheesy and like anime tropey-ish and stuff, like I'm in love with it, and I follow it, and I just enjoy it, So Kingdom Hearts 3, the base game, I love it. And as I was playing it, in the last week to get ready for the DLC, I really appreciated it more, just going back to it and like redoing stuff. Yeah, I enjoyed my time with it, and I think it's still, at least for me, it still holds up. And I still, think it's a lot of fun. As for the DLC that finally, launched, I liked it. This one, once again, it's really divisive. I know a lot of people are really upset, because they're like, oh my god, it's just a lot of retreading, and they didn't answer any questions that we had, that sort of thing. I guess the thing I want to say is the way I look at it, I think people are too like hell-bent on wanting everything in their lives to be life-changing or like this big, memorable event, Like it's the equivalent of everyone wanting their birthday to be like this crazy non-stop party with like a live band and like catering, and they want to get, an infinite amount of gifts, and they want all their friends to be there, and I don't know, they want like their celebrity crush to show up, and like, I don't know, I feel like people want, like a birthday party that is just like the craziest over the top thing ever. However, the way I see it, sometimes you gotta like appreciate the small things. Even if your birthday party isn't this crazy over the top, all your wishes came true thing, that doesn't mean that you can't appreciate a nice party where your friends show up, you have a nice meal, you have some laughs, and then you go to bed, Like, sure, it's nothing special, but if you're having a nice time, then I think that counts for something. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that that's what I feel this DLC is like. Sure, it's not the over the top, all your wishes came true or whatever, but like, that's okay, The fact that it's just this nice, DLC that adds, some stuff and, it has some charm, I think that's good enough for me, Do I think it should have been a little cheaper than $30? Sure. I think if it had been like 20, maybe even like $14.99, even better. But yeah, all these people online are just like, oh my god, this DLC was such a disappointment. It didn't give me at all what I wanted, and it didn't answer any questions, and now I'm more confused than ever. You can tell they're just trying to set up the next sequel, blah, blah, blah. And like, I don't know, I just don't agree with that, As I'm playing through it, if I had fun playing it, then like that's a thumbs up for me. If it gave me moments that like generally surprised me or brought a smile to my face or like made me go like, oh my god, that's so hype, that's a thumbs up for me. And, if it just had some content that was like charming and, like it has like this photo mode where you can like do whatever you want with the characters, I think that's like really awesome. And it has like this boss rush mode that is super difficult. And I have not been able to beat like a single boss because even, like super powered up, they're like, kicking my ass. Like, I think that's really cool, So that's a thumbs up for me. So like for me, I think that makes the DLC worth it, And not only that, but the fact that like they gave me a reason to come back to the game a year later, like, I think that makes the DLC worth it. So I enjoyed my time with the DLC. I had fun with it. I think they did some really cool stuff, you know. They let you play as new characters. They let you play as Kairi, which that was like a really big problem people had. In the original, you know, Kairi, which is like the love interest, she was useless. And here, they actually show her doing some cool things. And you actually get to fight a boss as Kairi. And her moveset is awesome. So like, I think that made it like worth it, you know? So I don't know. Playing Kingdom Hearts 3 this last week and playing the DLC, I still love the game. I think it's great. Sure, it's not the best game in the world. Like I said, it's not that, you know, unforgettable, you know, birthday bash that everyone's hoping for. But still, it was like a nice, down-to-earth, like little party where all my friends showed up. I had some laughs, you know, and I had a good meal, and there you go. I went to bed, you know. Like I know it's kind of a weird analogy, but that's the best way I can think of like describing it, you know. Like it's not something over the top, but as long as it was something nice and I had a good time, then I think that made it worth it. So yeah, Kingdom Hearts DLC is out now for, you know, PlayStation. Comes out in a month for Xbox One. Personally, I really liked it. I had fun with it. I think that if you just want, you know, to play as new characters, and if you want to do like the boss rush because you enjoyed fighting the data organization members in Kingdom Hearts 2, if you want to like do all that sort of stuff, and if you want to fight like a super hard secret boss on top of all that, then I think you'll enjoy it, you know? And I think for you, maybe those $30 will be worth it, you know? So I can't say for sure, but I enjoyed it. That's all I can say. And yeah, I would say just look into it, make an informed decision. And it's not going to be like the best DLC in the world. It's not going to answer any questions because, of course, you know, there's more games coming up in the series in the future. But I still had fun with it. I thought it was really hype and stuff. There you go. Alrighty, guys, and with that being said, that brings me to the end of my week. Hopefully, you know, me talking about these anime, hopefully one of those piqued your interest. If you've been wondering about Kingdom Hearts 3, same thing. Maybe I've convinced you to get the DLC. Maybe I've convinced you to not get the DLC. But regardless, you know, just trying to like get that communication going and, you know, hopefully gathering some interest or whatever. So there you go. When it comes to our news this week, once again, I feel like the news has been kind of slow lately. I don't know when it's going to pick up because so far it's been kind of But regardless, there was still some news stories that I thought were pretty entertaining. So, I don't know, without further ado, let's dive in, I guess. The first news story that I want to share, pretty simple one. It's more of an announcement, really. But as the title of the article states, Kunio-kun / River City invades Smash Ultimate this week. So basically, for any of you who don't know, there's this really famous series called the Kunio-kun / River City series. If you guys remember, not too long ago on my channel, I did a review of the game River City Girls, and basically it's supposed to be a little like beat 'em up game that's like a spin-off of this series. And yeah, you know, basically the series is about like this little delinquent guy. His name is Kunio-kun. And it's a beat 'em up, you know, taking place in like the, you know, titular River City, where you just run around, you know, beating people up. And yeah, you know, it's a beat 'em up. I mean, if you play a beat 'em up, you know, you kind of get what it's about. And basically, yeah, the news is that this, you know, upcoming week, there's going to be 4 different spirits that you can unlock in Smash Bros. Ultimate. Like basically, you know, you go on the spirit board, you fight them, that sort of thing, and you fight them. And I thought that was really cool. You know, I think that the series getting, you know, recognition in Smash, I think that's really cool. And something else that I thought was kind of cool is that, you know, in the article, they kind of mentioned like, oh, it'd be cool if we got River City Girls DLC fighters. And in the comments section, you know, of the forum, people were talking about how it'd be cool, you know, if Kunio-kun made it into Smash. And yeah, I was thinking about it. I'm like, that would actually be really cool if we got, you know, some sort of character from the series. Even though a lot of people see the spirits as kind of like a deconfirmation, people feel like that's kind of how it works, I still think it'd be really cool if we got one of the beat 'em up characters. And I do feel like it fits, honestly, within the world of Smash, you know, having some sort of a little beat 'em up character running around, you know, just punching people, kicking people. So, I don't know. I think that's really cool. I think if you have Smash, you know, look forward to unlocking the spirits. And yeah, you know, definitely if one of the characters was to make it into the series as part of like the Smash Fighters Pass Volume 2 or whatever, I do think that would be a good pick, I would be interested to see if one of them makes it in, but, I guess only time will tell, but I just thought it was an interesting story, so just wanted to share it, there you go. Likewise, as the title of the article states, Stardew Valley reaches 10 million sold milestone, still going strong 4 years later. So yeah, Stardew Valley, I don't know how many of you have played it. I would feel that just about everyone is, at least somewhat familiar to it. Basically, Stardew Valley, for anyone who doesn't know, it's like this mix of, I don't know. I mean, if you ever played like Harvest Moon, or I guess just games where you live in a little farm where you run around crafting stuff, that sort of thing. It kind of takes lots of aspects from different games, Basically, you choose your protagonist, you move out to the countryside, and it's your job to just manage a farm, whether you want to grow crops or have animals or whatever, you have the option to do whatever you want. And what it makes the game cool is, there's farming, there's crafting, you can run around in dungeons fighting enemies and mining, and you can romance people, and there's a whole, leveling up system with people, and you can get married and have kids, and it's a really big game, lots of good stuff. And, I've obviously done a review of it before. I really love this game. I have good things to say about it. Back when it was on PS4, at this point it's on every system basically and PC. And yeah, just hearing that it hit 10 million sold, I think that's awesome. I definitely think the game deserves it. And just, yeah, I mean, the fact that it's been 4 years is crazy. Because I remember when I first heard about this game, I was excited to play it. And like I said, it came out on PS4 and I got it and I played it. And I don't know, just the fact that it's been so many years already and the game's still going, and the fact that they're still adding, patches to it and updates, and, not too long ago they added a multiplayer mode, and on PC people are always making mods, that sort of thing. I don't know, I just think it's really cool. I think it's awesome to see this little series succeed so well. And so yeah, I just want to share that news story. I thought it was really fun. And I guess what I want to say is that if you've never played Stardew Valley before, I think you should play it. It's not that expensive. I think it might be 15 to 20 bucks. Comes with hours of entertainment. So I'd say check it out. I think it's really fun. And to the people who have made Stardew Valley what it is, all that good stuff, congratulations. You really deserve that your game is, reached that milestone, So there you go. Alrighty, moving on. This next news story is a funny one because, man, someone just took the legend seriously. And yeah, I don't know. It's funny. You'll see what I mean in a moment. But as the title of the article states, Disneyland guest actually pulled the sword out of the stone. So when I read this, I was just wait, what? And I was reading it, and everything surrounding it's just really funny. But for anyone who doesn't know, there's this old Disney movie from 1965, 1963, that's supposed to be about King Arthur as a kid, and Merlin keeps training him, all sorts of different magic and all sorts of, different life lessons or whatever. And, he kind of tells Arthur that he's meant to do great things. And it's a really fun movie. And, by the end of the movie, Arthur ends up, accidentally pulling the sword from the stone, not realizing that makes him the next king. And sure enough, at the Disney park ride, I guess there's this, attraction called the King Arthur Carousel, and in front of it there's this anvil, and you can pull the sword from the stone supposedly. And I guess it was an attraction back in the day where someone dressed as Merlin would actually have people try to pull the sword from the stone, and of course nobody can do it. They weren't meant to. It's supposed to be a gimmick or whatever. And it says here at the ceremony hasn't been done for over a decade, but then out of nowhere apparently this guy, he was at the, attraction with his friend, and he says, let me see, I'm looking for the part where he's talking about it. Where the guy who's telling his part of the story, because he was there, he says, the sword is not removed for refurbishment. My friend Sam broke it last week on the 8th when we went to Disneyland. He literally ripped it out. The staff said that it was really old, and that's why he was able to do so. It was his first time at Disney, and he's a pretty buff dude. I told him if he pulled it out, then he'd win a prize, and he just used brute force, I guess. It was broken and jagged. The staff said they taped it off so no one would stick their fingers in and cut it on the broken pieces left inside. So, I don't know, it just sounds so funny imagining the scene. You know, guy's at Disneyland with his friend. Guy's pretty buff, so he says, hey, you know, if you pull a sword from the stone, you'll get a special prize. Guy believes it, uses brute force to just yank the thing out, and yeah, apparently now they have to refurbish it, you know, unfortunately. But yeah, just the whole story, I think it's funny. Unfortunately, I mean, the guy doesn't get to be the next king of England, but yeah, just the fact that he actually pulled it, I mean, I guess that's kind of impressive in its own right, and I mean, they didn't say anything about, like, Disney seeming too upset about it. It seemed like they were just gonna do their best to, like, refurbish it and fix it or whatever, but I don't know, I just thought it was an interesting story. Like I said, I think it's funny that you have this story all about doing this, someone does it in real life, I don't know. Just imagining the whole scene, I thought it was humorous. If you want to read about it, links in the description below, but yeah, let's move on. Ah yes, forging on ahead, my next story also has to do with Disney, and as the title of the article states, Disney removes Fox from 20th Century and Searchlight logos. So, as many of you might remember, not too long ago, I mean, I think it was the beginning of 2019, was it? I want to say it was like the beginning of 2019, the Walt Disney Company bought out Fox for $71.3 billion. And that basically means that the two are merged. And yeah, at this point, I think that everything's basically owned by Disney. I think the only things not owned by Disney are those owned by like Warner Brothers, those owned by like Universal, and I don't know, that might honestly be it. Maybe those owned by Apple or something. Like, I don't know, it's gotten crazy where basically Disney owns all media, right? So yeah, that's a pretty dark timeline. And, you know, it went even farther when Disney bought Fox. And as the article states, it's kind of interesting, almost as like a final, I don't know, almost to like add insult to injury. Now that Disney owns Fox, if you guys remember, you know, movies would start and it would say like 20th Century Fox Presents, and it would play like the little theme or whatever, you know, like it's an iconic thing. And for lesser movies, they would say, you know, Fox Searchlight Pictures Presents, and it's like a similar logo. According to the news story, apparently, yeah, Disney is taking the Fox part out of the logo so that from now going forward, instead of 20th Century Fox, the studio or like the brand or whatever is going to be called 20th Century Studios, and Fox Searchlight is just going to be called Searchlight Pictures. So yeah, instead of Fox Searchlight, it'll be Searchlight Pictures. Instead of 20th Century Fox, it'll be 20th Century Studios. And yeah, so they're basically removing the Fox part of the studios. And so as I was saying, that feels like it kind of adds insult to injury. Like, not only did you get bought out by this other company, but you're losing like the big part of like what made you who you are, I guess, you know? So I just thought that was really interesting. I mean, at the end of the day, I guess it doesn't matter that much since they get bought out anyway. But yeah, just the fact that Disney's doing that, I have to wonder why they're doing it, you know? It seems kind of weird, but I don't know. I mean, they probably have the reasoning. Maybe it's because, you know, they want to use these brands to push like more adult content. That way Disney can push like the more family-friendly content. You know, that could be it. Or like I said, maybe it's just to add insult to injury. Like, we bought you guys out. You guys lose a big part of your identity. I don't know. But I just thought it was an interesting story. I thought it was a weird one. And as always, you know, link in the description below. You can read about it yourself. And yeah, it says that apparently, one last thing, it says that yeah, for movies that are coming out like soon, like in February, that's when we should notice the changes, you know, in the logos. So I don't know, there you go, you know, interesting little tidbit. So alrighty, moving on to the realm of, I guess you could call it TV. This one is a really weird one, and it's funny because I actually saw this on Twitter first without knowing like the full story, but apparently, you know, as the title of the article states, Mr. Peanut dies at 104 to save Wesley Snipes in bizarre Super Bowl ad. So, for anyone who doesn't know who Mr. Peanut is basically like this mascot for this company called Planters that they sell peanuts, you know, and Mr. Peanut was basically like this little peanut. He had a little top hat, a little monocle. He was supposed to be like a little fancy guy, and he was the mascot, you know, and he's been around since, I guess, let me see if I can see, since 1916, you know, so he's been a mascot for a long time. For whatever reason, like I said, I remember seeing it on Twitter, you know, like a week back or whatever, where it says, you know, it is with heavy hearts that we confirm that Mr. Peanut has died at 104. In the ultimate selfless act, he sacrificed himself to save his friends when they needed him most. Please pay your respects with R.I. Peanut. And I remember seeing this and going like, what the hell? What's happening? Why did they kill off the mascot? I was like really weirded out and wondering what it was about. All the comments, people were basically making jokes about it, this sort of thing. And so I guess it kind of, fell out of my mind. But as I was looking for news stories this week, I ran across it again. And yeah, it's just like this really weird commercial, I guess that's leading up to some sort of like a Super Bowl ad or whatever, where basically, yeah, it's Mr. Peanut, Wesley Snipes, and this other actor called Matt Walsh. And I don't know, for whatever reason, they're like, oh, here it is. Yeah, the ad starts with Mr. Peanut, Walsh, and Snipes riding in a peanut-shaped vehicle that quickly goes over a cliff, ejecting the 3 passengers and leaving them hanging from a branch over the precipice. When the branch starts to break, Walsh and Snipes argue over which of them should let go so the others can live. As the emotional music swells, Mr. Peanut decides that he will sacrifice himself and plunges to the bottom of the canyon, landing with a thud next to the crashed Peanut-mobile. Snipes says maybe he'll be alright, at which point the vehicle explodes, removing all doubt about Mr. Peanut's fate. So it's like, what the hell? It's just so weird. I don't know why they would like pull this weird killing off their mascot. A lot of people are saying it probably just has to do with like the Super Bowl. Maybe during the Super Bowl, they'll unveil that he's back or he has like a new appearance or something. It could be that they want to do like a rebranding or something. But regardless though, it's super weird. Kind of cheesy, kind of creepy in a weird way. But yeah, there you go. I mean, if you ever wondered if, food mascots or brand mascots or whatever, if you ever wondered if they could die, apparently they can. And so yeah, for the time being, Mr. Peanut is dead. And if you want to read about it, link in the description below. That also shows the weird video or whatever. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see what they do during the Super Bowl because, I don't know, it seems like they have some sort of plan for all this weird nonsense. So there you go. Alrighty, finally for our last news story. I guess you could say it's a bit of an anime news story and more of an announcement. A lot of them I feel like they've been more of announcements than actual like stories. But as the title of the article states, Netflix adds Pokemon Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution film on February 27th. So I don't know how many of you know, but I think it was last year, 2019. They made like a CGI like 3D remake of the first Pokemon movie, and sure enough, it was called Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution. That's what it's called. Yeah, Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution, and it released in Japan. I think it did okay apparently, and since then people have been kind of waiting because they want to see it in America or whatever. And apparently, yeah, it says right here that finally Netflix is going to show the movie. It's the first time it's going to be outside of Japan and Korea, and yeah, it'll be hitting on February 27th. And sure enough, if you follow the link in the description below and you check out the article, it talks about, like the original movie, that sort of thing. It talks about when it was in theaters, blah, blah, blah. And it even has like a little English trailer, even though it's kind of weird to see the movie redone in this style. I kind of like it, honestly. Maybe the only thing I don't like, there's some stuff I don't like about the characters. Like, I don't really like the mouths. I feel like the mouths and like the teeth of like the human characters, I feel like they look kind of weird. And some of the textures, especially on Team Rocket, they look a little bit weird. But besides that, I actually really like the new style. I think it works really well. I like that Ash actually looks like a kid, because I feel like when you watch like the original movie and like series and stuff, like, it's weird. Like, Ash is supposed to be like a kid, but he never really looks like a human to me. He just looks too over the top and like too cartoony, And here, like in this movie, when you look at him, he actually looks like a child to me. Like, he actually looks like a real, like, Asian kid. Like, I don't know. He looks real to me, surprisingly enough. So, I don't know. I like the style. I think it's cool. I like how the Pokemon look in it. I like that Ash looks like an actual, like realistic child. And, yeah, I just think it's fine. It works well enough, I guess. And, yeah, I don't know how different it's supposed to be from the original. But regardless, if you've been interested in it, like I said, it's coming out February 27th. I don't know if it's in all regions, though. Here it just says outside of Japan and Korea. But, if you have Netflix, might as well check it out if you're interested. And, yeah, there you go, I guess. So, enjoy. Alrighty guys, with that being said, that brings us to the end of another news week. As always, hopefully there was something you guys found educational, informative, interesting, that sort of thing. Hopefully you guys got something out of this week, With that being said, before we wrap up, as always, I want to jump over to the content creator spotlight. And my content creator for this week, it's funny because as I've said before, it's the kind of channel that doesn't need my help at all. Currently sitting at 457,000 subscribers. Even if everyone that's subscribed to me were to subscribe to this guy, it would barely make a difference, But regardless, it's a channel that I really look up to and I think is really awesome and has really great content. So that's why for my content creator spotlight this week, I want to share Many a True Nerd's YouTube channel. And Many a True Nerd is run by this British guy named John. I don't really know what he looks like. He's never really showed his face on screen. I don't even know what his last name is. All I know is his name is John because he says it in a lot of videos. But yeah, Many a True Nerd, it's basically this channel run by a guy named John. And it's just this awesome channel where basically John plays kind of anything and everything, And he's kind of the gaming YouTuber I look up to because it just looks like he has so much fun just playing anything and everything and just having a good time, for instance, the last video he made, as I was going to record the podcast, he finally played Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, the demo. And, same as me, he got a Psyduck. That's part of what made me want to share him because I thought the fact that he got a Psyduck and I got a Psyduck as starters, I thought that was really fun. So, sure enough, he played Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. He's played Pokemon Shield. He's played Resident Evil 2 on stream a few times. He's played Darkest Dungeon, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, all sorts of, just indie games here and there. He's done all sorts of is it called campaigns where he's played a You Only Die Twice, I think it was called, or You Only Die Once, something like that. Playthrough of Fallout, where I guess, he wasn't supposed to die in it. So that was really cool. He does huge, you can almost call them tutorials of the Hitman series, where basically he plays through all the levels, does a bunch of the objectives, and sometimes he goes back again and he'll kind of do a lore dump of what happened in each level. That's really cool. He's done full playthroughs of the Outer Worlds. I'm just scrolling through his channel. He just does so many things, whether it's Nintendo or PC. I believe, if I know of, he does mostly Nintendo and PC games. He's a really big PC gamer, but he just does so many different games, If you want someone with variety, that's what I think is so fun about him, that he doesn't just stick to one thing. Even though he does do, like I said, series, he plays through Fallout without trying to die, or he plays through all of the Hitman levels and does tutorials and stuff. He also just jumps into random indie games and shows them off. Or he does random streams of Resident Evil 2. Or like I said, he plays Pokemon Shield, that sort of thing. So I just think he's a really fun Let's Play channel where he plays all sorts of games. There's always something interesting to him. And when it comes to his personality itself, he's just this really fun, sarcastic Let's Player, I like that he's not too over the top, Everything about him feels genuine. It feels like he really is just this sarcastic guy that loves to play video games. And I don't know, man, some of his videos are just so fun. The rest of them are super informative. And that's why, like I said, even though he doesn't need my help at all, I would say that, check out Many a True Nerd. This is a guy that, like I said, I look up to him. If I could be this type of Let's Player, / video game player, on my channel, I think that'd be great. Because he just draws in so much people, teaches them stuff, entertains them, that sort of thing. And yeah, he never feels too over the top. He never feels too needy for subs or views or anything. He just seems like the type of guy who has fun, puts out content, and just wants to share with his fans, basically. So Many a True Nerd, that's my spotlight, for this week. I'd say check him out, guys. As always, check out his stuff and comment and like and subscribe if you're interested. And if you do, if you do decide to show him some love, tell him the Wannabe reviewer sent you. He probably won't know who you're talking about, but if that were to put me on his radar, that would be pretty cool. So there you go. Alrighty, guys, and with that being said, that brings us to the end of another podcast. That is one more in the bag. As always, thank you for sticking around. Thank you for watching. Hopefully there was something you got out of this, whether it was, me talking about the different anime that I've been watching, me talking a little bit more about like Kingdom Hearts 3 and the DLC, and how I think people should, just like kind of temper their expectations and just try to enjoy the little things in life and just have fun with it. Hopefully maybe you guys got something out of that, or who knows, maybe it was one of the news stories. Maybe you guys found one of the news stories. Regardless, hopefully you guys got something out of listening to the podcast this week. And, as always, my name is Wannabe Reviewer. You can catch me over on Twitter and on twitch.tv. And over on Twitch, I've been trying to do more streaming, definitely. If you check out my channel, I put my streams up on my channel a couple days later. And yeah, I've been streaming all sorts of things. I did the mystery dungeon. I played a little bit of Katamari Damacy reroll last time. I actually just bought a game that's supposed to be a total trash fire. I was able to get my hands on it. Maybe I'll stream that. That might be fun. But yeah, I always have all sorts of ideas for things I might stream. So, try to, maybe subscribe to me on Twitch. That way you guys can be informed of when I go live. But yeah, during the week, I'm going to try to, stream some more. Definitely keep it up with these like new reviews that I've been doing, like the new style. And yeah, just look forward to more content in general, But yeah, that's been my time. My name is Wannabe Reviewer. I'll try my best to be back here next week for episode 65. I hope you guys have a wonderful week until then. I've been Wannabe Reviewer, and I'll see you guys next time.